must prioritize innovative, inclusive, and resilient solutions. Drought is undoubtedly the most complex and serious of meteorological disasters, with impacts on all sectors. Droughts can strike any region of the world, and their consequences are often extensive. By relying on community-led water management, we not only strengthen resilience to drought, but also build a foundation for sustainable and inclusive water governance. Ministerial dialogue and discussion during this COP are critical in helping to fulfill the Convention's mandate to strengthen the resilience of populations and ecosystems. We must find solutions, means and mechanisms for global solidarity in the face of droughts. We must transform our agricultural and food production systems to address the challenge of drought resilience. The principles of agroecology adopted by FAO provide a sound framework to guide this transformation in an holistic and integrated way. To further build drought resilience, we must transform the way we manage water by relying more on community-led management. As the parties to the COP prepare to make a decision that is equal to the challenges of drought, we propose the following recommendations. Foster collaboration across ministries and levels of government to address the root causes of drought vulnerability, such as land degradation and unsustainable water management. Ensure better coordination of information sharing, monitoring, policies and budget allocation regarding drought preparedness and response across all governance levels. Commit to concrete actions that support women, youth, small-scale farmers, pastoralists, indigenous peoples and local communities in reducing their sensitivity to drought. By acting on the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists in 2026, recognize the role of sustainable pastoralism in reducing and responding to drought. Relocate environmentally harmful subsides toward drought resilience. Be brave, be strong, and together, let's make sure that COP16 in Riyadh is decisive and inspires real commitments for the future of the land that still allow us to feed ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Marioldi. We know that the golden age of water has ended, as Marioldi already stressed. Moreover, with projections suggesting that the global population could reach between 10 and 12 billion people by 2050, we will need to increase food production by more than 50% to meet the demands of growing population. However, given that the world's agricultural land is expected to remain largely unchanged, particularly due to the ongoing desertification and land degradation, this increase in food production will need to be achieved with increasing scarce resources, especially water. So it is crucial to accelerate efforts to mitigate and adapt to the effect of drought to strengthen the resilience of vulnerable population and ecosystems. Climate disasters worsened by climate change could displace tens of millions annually, intensify the competition for resources. Water scarcity will be a key issue. With prolonged droughts driving migration as over a quarter of the global population faces extreme conditions. Smallholders with farms under 2 hectares are especially vulnerable, suffering disproportionately from climate change impacts. These smallholders contribute about 35% of the global food supply. Thus, we are facing a significant global challenges that are likely to disrupt food and nutrition security. Given these challenges, urgent action is needed to address the global threats to food and agriculture system, to sustainably manage agri-food system at the CSOs accredited to the UNCCD at COP16 that currently reached the record number of over 1,150, as the Secretary just recalled. So the CSOs recommend supporting agroecological and agroforestry practices with the local communities. These approaches are essential to create resilient, inclusive, and sustainable food system and achieve land degradation neutrality. A prominent example of land degradation neutrality is our keynote speaker, Mr. Siddesh Sakor, the 2024 UNCCD Land Hero. As a farmer and the founder of Agro Rangers, an organization focused on combating soil degradation, Siddesh has dedicated his effort to improving agricultural practices. For the past 5 years, Siddesh has been working in regenerative organic agriculture, developing intercropping-based agroforestry models that improve soil health. Siddesh, the floor is yours. You have 10 minutes to deliver your talk. Please, I kindly request you to stick to the time. Please.
Thank you, Mario. Good morning, everyone. I am Siddesh. I am a farmer and founder of Agro Rangers. I really want to thank UNCCD and CSO panel for giving this opportunity to a farmer to speak on this global platform in COP16. And it is my absolute pleasure to speak on World Soil Day of my story on sustainable agri-food system. Because my story is same as the million of farmers in India and the worldwide. I was born and brought up in a small drought village called Kendur from Maharashtra state in India. And growing up, I have witnessed all the challenges and the hardship faced by farmers and our families. Most of the children of the farmers do not get the opportunity to get a good quality of education. And our state is having the highest number of farmer suicide from the drought villages and from the drought districts. My father, like many farmers, do not want their children to be a farmers, but want to be an engineers. Because my father really worked very hard, so I can go to the college and I can escape the struggles of the farming. He believed that that's the only way out to keep me was leave the land behind. Ironically, my post-engineering work was to do with the farming. And my father was very upset with me that why I wanted to work in the farming if I have done my engineering. So in my post-engineering internship, I tested the soil of 5,000 small and marginal farmers from our area, which made me realize that the 90% of our soil has been degraded and the carbon level in these soils is dangerously low and which has been reduced 1/6 of its original position in last few decades. Just imagine if your hemoglobin level will drop by 1/6 of its original, what will happen to us? And if this continues in next 10 to 15 years, we will not be able to grow any kind of crop in this farmland. And why is this happened? So I decided one day to find out the root causes of it. So I set out to figure out how I can reverse the soil degradation with the soil rejuvenation approach. And I approached my father to work on his land. He got very angry and said to me that you will get more income in begging than the farming. Not only I failed him to convince him, but he kicked out of his home and his land. And above all, I want to do something to elevate the economic status of the farmer community, especially those who are the small landholders like my father was. I wanted to have that pride in the farming that a lot of farmers now losing and society doesn't value and appreciate their profession and they look down on it. I wanted to prove that there is an opportunity for economic growth in farming, something that my father and their generation couldn't experience. I wanted to make sure that no other farmer or the father was going to stop their children from the farming. Because my father and the whole community represent the million of small and marginal farmers across our country. And all these living experiences made me to start an organization called Agro Rangers. We are a young non-profit organization started with the children of farmers, committed to the adoption of rejuvenating farmlands and empowering small and marginal farmers. We are working on a single mission to create a sustainable livelihood for the small and marginal farmers by rejuvenating their farmland so we can improve their soil quality, we can produce the sustainable food, and we can reduce the climate change impact. When we started doing the work in the community, I decided to find out what are the main root cause of this farming system. And I found out that the chemicals that we are using are very harmful for our soil and which has been degraded our soil quality in the whole villages that we are working. The practices in my village is getting through the monocropping, where we farmer believe that if we add more chemicals in the farming, we will get more income from the farming. But by using these excessive chemicals for more than a decade, we have destroyed our soil quality, and this soil quality produces lower quality of food, which ultimately get less income from the farming. Again, to cover up the losses for the farmers, have to take more debts, and these debts goes into the vicious cycle for the farmers till they end their lives due to loans and the poverty. The chemical fertilizers are heavily subsidized for use of farmland, and these agrochemical companies are destroying our soil and exploiting our farmers. So how can we come out of this cycle and generate a sustainable income without destroying our Mother Earth? Farmers like us are crushed between the heaven and the earth, where the farming contributed, this chemical farming practices contributes to the climate change. When there's supposed to be rain, the drought falls. When there's supposed to be not rain, there is heavily rain happens, and which all controlled by the God from the top, but the land that the farmers work, which also is degraded, which gets the diseases and the pest attack. So how we can do in the middle of these two issues, how we can grow the crops and sustain ourselves? Every force is against us. So either we quit the farming and migrate to the city for the new search of the jobs and the livelihoods. So at Agro Rangers, we believe in a simple one truth. When you heal the soil with the regenerative practices, you restore the hope for the people and create a brighter future. We focus on regenerative practices like agroforestry, where trees and the crops grows together. Have you ever been into the forest? You can see the different species, shrubs, plants, all thriving together. Nobody adds any manure or chemicals into the forest. Still, it thrives beautifully. So we are bringing, how does it work? So it works with a symbiotic relationship that these plants helps each other. So we are bringing that same forest principle into the agriculture, and we call it as agroforestry. Through this symbiotic relationship, we are leveraging the crops and the plants relation in the soil. We provide education and training to the farmers, along with the financial assistance, to convert their degraded land into agroforestry land, which sustain the environment and create a sustainable income for the farming and their families. So we do their assessment of the soil and develop the customized agricultural agroforestry model for their farmland, for their suitable for their climatic conditions. And every farmer has a different cropping pattern which sustains them in terms of their food requirement, in terms of their soil quality improvement, and the income that they are generating through the multi-cropping pattern. We are helping the farmers and shifting their mindset of dependence on expensive chemicals, and we help them to diversify their crops so no single crop failure can run their entire season. For the 1 acre of a farmland that we work with each and every farmer, we convert it into the sustainable agroforestry model. It costs just $120 for us, But within the year, the farmers start getting generated approximately 4 times of it, the income, around $3,000 annually. And that's the biggest income that we are able to create with the farming community. For a small and marginal farmer, this transformation isn't just about the income, but it's about the dignity. It's just the hope for the farmers. But beyond the numbers, it's the stories that matters. When I see the farmers' livelihoods are improved, their children goes to the better quality to get the better education and go for the higher studies. One of the farmer once told me that he's not worried about his debt anymore. And that's the impact. That isn't just about saving the soil, but it's the saving our lives. But the farmers alone cannot fix this. It's a collective responsibility that requires the support and the action of all stakeholders. We need CSOs to build up policies prioritizing small and marginal farmers with sustainable farming practices, get the government support for the implementation. We need the private sector and the businesses to invest the solution that heal the land instead of exploiting it. We have a subsidy available for the destroying our soil through the chemicals, but we do not have a subsidy for restoring the earth, restoring our lands. This is not just an Indian issue or the farmers' issue. It is an existential human issue. Farmers around the world are the caretaker of the earth. When the soil fails, the food fails, and so do we. When there is no soil, there are no farmers. And without farmers, there is no food. So here is my question. Will you stand with us? Your support is crucial in this fight. To the government, will you champion the farmers in policy making that protect us and the land that we care for? To the private sector, will you invest in regenerative farming practices that restore our land? To the individuals, will you consider the buying sustainable food on your plate and support the hands that give it? The time for action is now. When we heal the soil, we heal ourselves. When we support farmers, we grow the hope. Together, we can create a world where farmers thrive, the land flourishes, and no one is left behind. The land is a mother that never dies. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Siddesh, for your highly informative presentation and for sharing your on-the-ground testimony. Now we will proceed with our panelists. For our panel roundtable, we have 6 panelists bring diverse perspective and solution for enhancing agri-food systems globally. Drawing from community-led experience, local action, and indigenous knowledge, I would like to remind the panelists to keep their presentation under 7 minutes. The first panelist is Ms. Erimelinda Tembra from Tanzania. She's a program manager at the NGO Island of Peace. She's a dedicated advocate for community employment, assisting women, youth in transitioning to sustainable agriculture practices. Erimelinda will give an overview of the Sustainable Agriculture Arusha project in the Arusha region, northern Tanzania. Please, Erimelinda, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies, delegates, and representatives. Please receive greetings from Tanzania. I am very delighted this morning to be sharing the experience of the project we are currently implementing in Tanzania, focusing in transforming food systems by adapting principles of agroecology. And at Island of Peace, we are taking a holistic approach in implementation of these activities. That is to say, we support our communities in the northern part of the country, particularly Arusha region, from production, post-production, at consumer level, and advocacy. Particularly in production activities, we have focused in building capacity for the farmers and schools to be able to adopt sustainable farming practices that adheres to the principles of agroecology. One thing is very clear, that agroecology in most parts of the country does not yet have deep roots. So most of the activities are more into capacity building and investment. Some of the sustainable farming practices that we have been able to really put effort on, number one, has been on diversification. We have encouraged our farmers to do their farming, adapting crops, livestock, trees, all together to ensure they diversify their farming practices. But also in production activities, we have put a lot of efforts in revitalization of farmer-managed seed systems. These are the seeds that are already getting forgotten, but we are putting a lot of efforts and capacity building to ensure we revive them, we advocate for them, we want them to be recognized and used in production activities. But also in production, we have put a lot of efforts in land restoration activities. We have tree planting campaigns. There are a couple of terraces that have been supported in the communities to control the runoff, but also restoring the degraded areas, for example, the hill areas, the grazing lands. So that has all been done in the production activities. We also do a lot of activities in post-harvest management to make sure what has been produced with so much effort does not get lost at the post-harvest management. So we build a lot of capacity in proper handling, the technologies that are recommended to ensure they adhere to the principles of agroecology, but processing activities as well as commercialization. One very important aspect also is consumer sensitization. Like I earlier mentioned, agroecology does not have deep roots in the area, so many people do not know about agroecology producers, where to find them, who to reach, how are they produced. So we do a couple of consumer sensitization activities to ensure they know about these products, they can be able to access, but also ensure they are eating safe and healthy foods. So we do a lot of campaigns, radio campaigns, cooking demonstrations, public awareness creation to ensure the communities are able to know and understand the whole chain that we have been supporting in agroecological production activities. But we also do advocacy activities by hosting a couple of platforms. For example, in Arusha, we have a very famous platform that is called Arusha Collaborators for Agroecology Forum. In this forum, we bring together actors in the agroecology. They discuss issues. What are the challenges? What are the success? Where do we get inputs? Where do we hear of any other thing that they need, and encourage each other to continue moving forward. So it's been very, very useful, because at this platform, we also let service providers, for example, in the inputs to be able to display various inputs, biofertilizers, biopesticides, and all of that. This is one platform that we bring people together. We also host a platform called Arusha Safe Food Platform. One of the things you will hear when you get to the markets in Arusha is the level of contaminations in the vegetables, in the producers. It's time that we want people to eat safe food. So through these platforms, we'd advocate for safe and healthy food, hoping believing that agroecology is one of the ways people get to eat safe and healthy food. So during these platforms, we actually speak of the safe food, we advocate, and how they can be able to access these foods. We also advocate at national level. One of the things that we do, we have formed a seed working group in Tanzania, which advocates for agroecology, seed, farmer-managed seed systems. So we have been advocating at the national level, and if you're following around Tanzania issues, you may have heard on the launch of first national agroecological organic strategy. Back in the days, we didn't have all of this, so implementation of agroecology activities somehow were not very easy. But through the advocacy activities, the government had launched the first strategy that supports the agroecological organic activities in the country. So it's one of the encouragements we have had in implementation of agroecology activities in Tanzania, knowing now the government is beginning to look at these sites and hopeful the future is bright. Of course, implementation of all these activities has not been quite easy. There are a couple of challenges that we have to encounter when implementing these activities. For example, unpredictability of weather patterns. You do not know when it's going to rain, when it's going to stay dry. So we build a lot of capacity, but sometimes the rain do not respond, and again, actual adaptation becomes another challenge to the farmers. But also we have, like I mentioned earlier, agroecology do not have a lot of deep roots. That means even extension services do not have a lot of knowledge in the agroecology. So we also lack a lot of knowledge with extension service providers, who now we hope they continue to support a bigger group. So that is another challenge, but we are trying to support a few of them to be able to support the communities where we are already doing these interventions, but also contradicting messages. Everybody is serving the same community. Today we'll teach and support and build capacity in adopting agroecology. Tomorrow somebody will come in with a different message on convention and all of that. And now we bring a lot of messages that sometimes if a farmer is not well guided, they can be misled. Land right issues. Some of these technologies we promote in agroecology, for example, water harvesting management, requires you to have a space. For example, we support them in construction of affordable water harvesting systems. It needs some space. Let's say a woman is in a group and they would love to do it, but when they get home, they have no right to the land. They cannot be able to do it. So it takes us another step to do it more family, discuss with the family and all that. It takes a lot of time, and some of them may not be ready to do that. So land right issues is another challenge we are all facing. However, we are very happy because the project we are implementing and the practices that we are doing feeds very much into the efforts of combating the desertification. The practices we are doing aligns very well to the Sustainable Development Goals, which
Melinda, sorry, you have 30 seconds to conclude, please.
Call for action. We cannot do it all ourselves. Let's collaborate. Please, let's unite and do this together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Melinda, for sharing your experience. The second panelist is Ms. Priyanka Patil, a youth representative by Brahma Kumaris in India. She is a young regenerative agronomist, a certified permaculture educator. Priyanka is also recipient of the Water Conservator 2023 Award from the Ministry of Water Resources of India. Today, she will share the strategy employed by women in rural areas in agroecology practice. Please, Priyanka, the floor is yours. Please stick it to the time.
Thanks, Maro. Namaste, good morning, and greetings of love. Thanks UNCCD for this opportunity to share this space with the people of land. I want to start my story of resilience, and this is a story of rural India and local communities. You can see in the pictures, these are the women from the Kutch region, which is the arid region from the India, where we started working on some community regeneration projects. And as you all know, the drylands are facing so many challenges, and one of the major challenges with the food system. As we all know, the food is the biggest impact we have had on the planet. So the way we are producing food, the way we are processing it, and the way we are transferring it in the different parts of the world, it's causing emission, and it's causing severe damage to the planet. But always there is a hope, and I'm starting this story with the spiral of erosion. When we entered in the village of India, that is in the Kutch, the people are there, you can see all are the elders. The many youth are migrated from the village, and village having only 96 to 126 peoples in the different villages. So we started working with them, and we observed their plate. Their plate having only few things, is like one roti with the wheat and onion and potato. So it was like difficult for us to be there in that challenging situation, and it's a teary situation for us, ki how they are surviving, because they have shifted their traditional practices of food system. They have heritage of so many diverse grains, but they are growing now cash crops. The cropping patterns are changed, the plates are changed from diversified food to the monoculture. And this monoculture again went into the mind, and people are only looking for the production, and they are not earning so much from all these seasonal crops, and 80% crops they are growing are only annual, and it's damaging soil more and making the soil poor and unhealthy, and it's like a disease, and disease of this degradation is transferring, and it's again causing the drought. It's like a vicious cycle: drought, degradation, and the soil is poor. It's not holding the water which is we are getting from the very minimal rain. It's like a 170 there. So we started working on the two things. You can see here the learning circle. So as we feel, the regeneration is highly impossible without education and well-being. In the learning circle, we adopted the 7 steps formula for village prosperity. So we started understanding their problems, their own challenges, because as we know, there are so many challenges with the food security and their consumption pattern, monoculture, malnutrition, and the poor soils. And also erratic climatic events in the dry lands. There are floods sometimes, there are no rainfall, and there is a prolonged rainfall. It's causing the reduced the income, and it's also reducing the production. So all these failure stories, and due to all these things, they can't afford the fruits, vegetables, and colors on their plate. So if the food is the biggest negative impact, then food can be an effective tool. So we started solving this problem with this tool of food. And I believe food can solve this reverse the spiral of erosion. And erosion at all levels: erosion of soil, erosion of society, erosion of health. And we can turn this spiral of erosion into the spiral of abundance. So we started working on soil regeneration with some strategies like cover cropping, mulching, crop rotation, mixed cropping, and watershed management. And watershed management with the trenches you can see in the picture. Trenches, swells. Swells is a beautiful planting system. On the swells, they can absorb the water more than 500 liters of one small structure, and it can help to grow more than 5 trees, and it can provide the food security in the dry lands. So the trenches will become full within a season, and it helps to grow the abundant grasses in the drylands, because the grassland overgrazing of these grasslands and degradation is the one of the challenge in the drylands. So then second, for the well-being, we started one initiative which is called the Sacred Seed Initiative. And with this Sacred Seed Initiative, we started giving them native seeds, and these native seeds helping them to give the legacy of this food security and food sovereignty for food freedom to their next generation. And now you can see they are growing diverse, colorful vegetables there, and their plates are very colorful now. So I want to show one video how we are working with these communities and how they are building resilience.
पेटूनी राव भार वादळ वाऱ्यात तू पडू दे ठिणगी लागू दे बनवा आई चरून फेड तू अंधार भेद उजेड पाड पहाट नवी कर तू लढा तू जीवनातील संकटेही सोडू नको तू साथ रा एकजुटीनं लढूया सारे घेऊन हाती हात रा
नदी पेटली उरी देवत ठेवू वाटेर स्वाभिमानी लढवल्याही शेतकऱ्याची जात ही
आम्हाची शपथ घेऊनी उलवसार रागर काळाईची पुण्याई वेळतीच तो दादर
Thank you, Priyanka, for your presentation, for sharing your on-ground experience. Now I would like to give the floor to the third panelist, Ms. Glenda Manja. She's a coordinator of the area of food agroecology in Foundation Cause. She's an environmental activist from Argentina, graduated in nutrition. She will share her insight on food security, soil degradation, and agribusiness in Latin America and provide a recommendation for transforming conventional agribusiness in sustainable agri-food system. Please, Glenda, first yours. Please keep your presentation under 6 minutes.
Los sistemas alimentarios.
Food systems which are prevalent at the moment are economically, social and environmentally unsustainable. Argentina is the third largest producer of GMOs after United States and Brazil. Significant reports from leading international organizations present here at this conference have shown that the production and consumption of food is the principal cause for going beyond the planet's capacity. 43% of arable land is responsible for the emissions of 30% of greenhouse gases. In Argentina, we've undertaken research at our foundation, the COP16 Foundation. We've published the third fumigated land report along with a partner institution, and what we have discovered is that when Argentinians produce conventionally consume conventionally produced food, they are consuming agri-toxins. Our reports show data which is more worrying than we had anticipated. We undertook a simulation of 4 meals, breakfast, lunch, tea and dinner, using products produced in Argentina, and it showed that we could be consuming 39 different agri-toxins in 4 daily meals. These agri-toxins cause hormonal disorders and they can cause cancer and neurological diseases. This is an attack on our health because these food stuffs bearing chemicals are the result of the prevalent food production systems. It also means that the land will be less capable of retaining nutrients. So we have a high chemical and low nutritional content in our foods. We've been losing vitamins and minerals. We don't have them present in the food that we eat today. I'm a nutritionist myself, and when I look at the blood tests of my patients, I see that my patients are lacking in vitamins and minerals. So this means that you have to buy food supplements such as vitamins and minerals, And at the same time, farmers have to also buy extra inputs to enrich their soils. So it's degraded land which causes the poor nutritional content of our food, and this affects our health. I also wanted to tell you about the current situation in Argentina. This year, the new government decided to close down very important national institutions, including the National Institute for Family, Peasant and Indigenous Farming. And this meant that the Pro Huerta, the Pro Kitchen Garden program was closed down. For over 30 years, it had been providing seeds to families so that they could grow their own food. This was a huge shock to us because it's a massive step backwards, and it shows that over the next few years it's going to be difficult to make progress on policies investing in agroecology. So my foundation has been supporting producers over the past few years so that they can change their methods of production and switch to agroecology. We also try to support them in reducing the use of pesticides and using crop rotation, as well as respecting natural cycles so that they can produce better quality foods. And we also pay attention to contact with the community. We know that producing good food is part of a social movement, and that's why we contact communities, provide them with training and workshops so that we can teach them how important it is to take care of our food production systems. This empowers communities so that they can support family, peasant and indigenous farmers as well. We believe that if the conventional food production system continues in our country, it will result in land being held by fewer people, and this system degrades our soil and produces foodstuffs which have very low nutritional quality but high chemical content. We're also trying to support a student association. It's a movement of farmers' children who want to start working on agroecology on their lands. It's very important for us to promote this new food production system. That's why we will support these students, because they're going to be the next generation of farmers. This will help us find the right seeds for agroecology, and we hope to be able to roll this out across the country. It's a huge country, so one of the challenges for us is to be able to work across the different climates and ecosystems that we have. We believe that associations like ours can play a key role, so that's why we would like to encourage everyone here to take a look at our work and see how we can work together. We hope that we will be able to continue to promote the right seeds for agroecological production systems and abandon conventional ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenda, for your contribution. I would like now to introduce the fourth panelist, Mr. Anand Etirajalu from the Conscious Planet. He is a project director of the Safe Soil Farmer Training Program and Convoy Culling, a farmer-driven agroforestry movement. He will be present a case study of monocrop coconut farmers' transformation into food forests, improving soil biology through regenerative agriculture practice. Anand, the floor is yours.
Thank
Please keep 5 minutes.
Yes, absolutely. A very good morning to everyone. My name is Anand. I've been a farmer since the age of 40. I'm from India, one of the largest agrarian countries in the world, with over 93 million farmers depending on agriculture and food systems. Today, all of us know the problem of soil and how quickly it is depleting. So much so that today, experts from FAO are predicting that by 2050, over 90% of our soils will be depleted. This is going to be the largest or the biggest crisis to humanity in the form of food security, where our population, world's population, will be reaching 10 billion. Do we have a solution that is pragmatic and scalable? Yes, we do have it. In Save Soil Movement, where I have been working with over 250,000 farmers, we have transitioned them into tree, crop, animal integrated regenerative practices, which has not only rebuilt the soils over the last 2 decades, but has increased the net incomes of these farmers by 300 to 800% in a matter of 4 to 5 years. Now, if we were to look at an example, I would like to show us a very short video where a farmer called Valluvan has implemented this in India, where in a matter of 6 to 7 years, his soil organic carbon has gone up from 0.5% to 1.5%, and in 10 years, it has reached 3%. And I'm pleased to inform that this particular farmer today is receiving a prize from FAO's World Soil Day contest, and his work has been documented in the WCAT's platform of sustainable land management. I request the organizers to play this video.
We obtained inputs from outside sources while performing multi-cropping at the multi-layer level. After transforming to organic farming though, we had to stop doing that. As an alternative, we are using country cow excretion, urine and dung through drip irrigation. Because of drip irrigation, we are able to supply this dung and urine to a large part of the farmland. Importantly, the soil becomes healthier as a result of this. The health of the soil is critical when we consider how to drastically improve soil health. One key source is this country's cow urine and dung. When we first started organic farming, the organic carbon level in the soil was around 0.5. At the end of every year, we test this and we found that the organic carbon is increasing drastically. After a decade, organic carbon levels in the soil have exceeded 1.5. When the organic carbon in the soil keeps increasing, it helps in producing higher quality and quantity. We can expect a higher crop yield. For example, when I first started out, I was getting 100 to 110 coconuts. After incorporating self-sufficient farming, the number increased to 160. The weight of the product has also increased to 500 to 550 grams. Initially, it weighed between 400 to 450 grams. An increase in weight, an increase in quantity is essentially only possible because of soil. So, one of the ways for making the soil fertile is country cow urine and dung, and another is mulch from multi-cropping.
Thank you. Like we have all seen, the highlight of this farm is not just that they are able to produce food sustainably and build soil health, but these sort of farms are resilient towards climate risks like drought and flood. Now that we have the solution, do we have a way to scale it up? Yes, we have a way to scale it up. That's how we have reached 250,000 farmers who have absorbed these techniques. The one most important thing for this kind of transition to happen is that we have to understand the mindset of the farmer, where a farmer only trusts another farmer. So farmer to farmer peer learning is one of the key strategies that we have deployed, and it has resulted in good ways. Second thing is handholding is the cornerstone of transition, where we are able to give consistent, timely handholding support to farmers who are in the transitionary phase. When the farmer is going through his first disease or pest problem, giving a solution within 24 hours is very important, and we have set up systems like field visits, WhatsApp groups, 12/7 helpline systems, education through in-person training, as well as educational content through YouTube channels.
You have to close, please.
Yes, sir. Now, for example, Valluvan farmer has been inspiring thousands of farmers to get into these practices. Now, if we were to scale these solutions at a global level, it is important that we should start revitalization of farmlands which are in the process of degradation along with already degraded lands. Such strategies will be far easier, faster, and cost-effective for us to secure the livelihoods of 3 billion people depending upon agriculture and food systems, and also build soil health in the fastest manner possible, and has the potential to absorb 1/3 of the CO2 emissions that we have emitted over the past many decades. Now, I complete my speech by a humble request to this August gathering that Restoration Fund should reach all farmers across the globe in an equitable manner where they are practicing regenerative practices and changing their soils and building climate resilience within their farms and farmer communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand, for your presentation. Now I will move on to our fifth panelist, Ms. Sopiko Babalashvili from Caucasus Environmental NGO Network, Georgia. She's also a CSO panel member, and she will share with us recommendations on how to engage youth in the transformation of food systems. Sopiko, the floor is yours. Please keep your presentation 5 minutes.
Mr. Moderator, distinguished delegates, dear panelists and colleagues, good morning. And thank you very much for this stage. My name is Sopiko Babalashvili. From Georgia. I represent Caucasus Environmental NGO Network, CENN, as well as the UNCCD CSO panel for Central and Eastern Europe. And it's my honor to be part of this open dialogue session and discuss the youth engagement in food systems transformation. So youth are pivotal in food systems transformation, but I think we should first ask a question: what are the unique capacities or the perspectives of young people which set them apart from other stakeholder groups? And let me underline several of them. First is innovation and creativity. Young people can reimagine food systems, the whole food systems, by integrating cutting-edge technologies into supply chains. Digital fluency, youth can amplify movements for sustainable food systems, educate communities, and influence consumption patterns on local and global scales using online campaigns. Adaptability. Youth are more likely to question and place unsustainable practices that undermine the natural resources or ecosystems and adopt agroecology and regenerative agriculture. And last but not least, interest in future, resilient future. As the generation that will align with the consequences of the decisions and actions we are taking today, young people have an interest in ensuring resilient and sustainable food systems. Therefore, they are eager to change the status quo. Across the globe, young people are already demonstrating their transformative potential by, for example, implementing the programs that are dedicated to reduce food waste, educating for policies, supporting small-scale farmers and biodiversity preservation, and training young farmers in regenerative farming and agroecology to improve soil health. Equipped with the right tools and opportunities, youth-led efforts can create scalable and sustainable solutions. Youth-led projects focus on eco-friendly and innovative production, processing, distribution, and consumption practices. Building on this, my experience working with young people over the past 5 years have provided several key insights into what makes youth engagement in food systems successful. And let me share 2 key learnings that could guide our collective efforts. Many young people lack awareness or education about food systems and the urgency of its transformation. But when given the enabling environment, they are adopting the practices that make food systems more sustainable. Youth need knowledge and skills, and education equips them to innovate and adopt best practices. Young people bring creativity and energy to address the challenges across the various elements of food systems, but in some cases they lack the access to resources to implement and launch their solutions or their ideas. To truly harness the potential of youth in food systems transformation, I propose the following actions. First, governments must prioritize education focusing on agroecology, regenerative agriculture, and sustainable production, processing, distribution, packaging, and consumption practices. Those should be integrated into both formal curricula as well as the informal learning opportunities. Accessible funding for youth-led actions in sustainable agriculture and food systems is essential, and these can include small grants that consider the leadership, characteristics, and requirements of local youth groups and organizations. So those were the key learnings and recommendations I wanted to share, and I want to underline that these recommendations are fully aligned to the recommendations and key messages that were prepared by the accredited civil society organizations. Once again, thank you very much for this stage, and I would welcome the questions and any comments from the audience. Thank you very much. Back to you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Sopico, for sharing your experience and for keeping the time. Now, our final panelist is Ms. Aisha Ali, indigenous people representative from Mombororo, pastoralist of Cameroon. She's a veterinarian by profession and also a focal point of the food sovereignty of the Indigenous People of Africa Coordination Committee. And she will share the perspective of indigenous people on sustainable food system and agriculture. Ali, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum and Pini Jam. Greetings from all the representatives of indigenous people participating in the UNCCD COP. For indigenous people, food holds deep cultural, spiritual, and ecological significance, and it goes beyond mere sustenance. The meaning of food can vary across different indigenous themes, but there are common themes that unify our relationship to food with lots of indigenous knowledge in that use in addressing land degradation and desertification. By focusing on agri-food system approach, it merely looks at food as an economic issue and as a commodity, and not address land degradation or food security holistically. It also hinders understanding of the methods of food production, distribution, and access that are primary and supplemental sources of subsistence practices, e.g. indigenous people struggling over hunting, small-scale fishing, and pastoralism are not easily analyzed under an agri-food system approach. We therefore propose the use of the terminology food system and agriculture. This will enable a holistic view of food as a source of nutrition, a cultural way of life, and an ecological relationship with our lands and territories. This will go in line with the ecological production food systems that addresses issues of desertification and land degradation. Thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Thank you, Aisha, for your contribution. Our panel discussion now has concluded, and I would like to express my gratitude to all the panelists as well as to our keynote speaker for sharing their invaluable experience. I would like now to begin with the first round of question comments from the party. This session will last 30 minutes. Please. I would like to start. Thank you I would like to give the floor to the representative of Armenia. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We thank the COP presidency for organizing this plenary meeting on civil society participation. And we also thank our distinguished speakers for their highly thoughtful and informative remarks and sharing their personal stories and experience. Indeed, climate issues, including land degradation and drought, are of such scale which require whole of government and whole of society approach and meaningful engagement of the NGOs, local communities, academia, farmers, women, and youth. inclusivity, full and meaningful involvement of CSOs are among priorities of Armenia's presidency, incoming presidency of the 17th session of the Conference of Parties of the Convention on Biodiversity, which will take place in 2026 in Yerevan. In this regard, I would like to ask our distinguished panelists on their insights how we can ensure synergies between the three Rio Conventions, also when it comes to the engagement and civil society activities. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to the representative of Armenia. I will now give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, distinguished guests, panelists. We're so appreciative of your efforts today, sharing your experiences and your knowledge with us so that we can learn from and alongside of you. I have two specific questions I'd like to pose. First, to Dr. Patil from India. What a lovely presentation. Thank you so much for that. Your enthusiasm was infectious. We appreciated it from towards the middle part of the room. You communicated beautifully. I'd like to ask you if you can speak to a little bit more to the social changes that you're seeing as a result of the interventions you're supporting, including through the learning circles. It was very encouraging. And then for Ms. Temba from Tanzania, so pleased to learn more about your project, Islands of Peace. I was wondering if you could draw out just a little bit more your comment around land rights and ask specifically, are you working with farmers or how are you working with farmers to acquire CCROs to secure and support their livelihoods? Thank you so much, again, with deep appreciation from the United States.
Thank you to the representative of USA. I will now give the floor to the representative of the European Union.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Dear representatives of civil society organizations, dear delegates and representatives, it is my privilege to deliver this statement on behalf of the European Union and its member states. In many countries, civil society organizations are working with people in vulnerable situations to strengthen capacities, generate and preserve knowledge, and to ensure the implementation of national desertification, land degradation, and drought projects and programs. They often fulfill the crucial role as facilitators to blend traditional and scientific knowledge. The EU and its member states are convinced that all processes relevant to the Convention would benefit from a systematic inclusion of civil society representatives, giving preference to civil society organizations working with vulnerable populations, including those living in rural areas, women, indigenous peoples, local communities, youth, and persons with disabilities. All civil society organizations and the civil society panel fulfill an important role in crystallizing the knowledge held by community-based organizations, indigenous peoples, local communities, women, persons with disabilities, and youth for the successful implementation of the Convention. We therefore appreciate the opportunity provided in the context of the Convention to facilitate the open dialogue between civil society, parties, and other stakeholders. The European Union and its member states acknowledge this important step towards a systematic inclusion of civil society in all relevant processes. We request parties to build on these successful platforms and formats and further expand the dialogue between accredited civil society organizations, parties, and other stakeholders by providing civil society organizations with active participation in contact group meetings. Lastly, we want to thank the CSO panel for putting inclusive and sustainable agri-food systems on the agenda of today's session in order to reflect on its role within the Convention. We must urgently transform our agricultural and food systems, including through agroecological approaches to stop land degradation and to ensure resilience of ecosystems and people. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you to the representative of the European Union. I will now give the floor to the representative of the Council of Palm Oil Producing Countries. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, for the opportunity to be given to the Council of Palm Oil Producing Country. In our increasingly interconnected global economy, the policies adopted by the consuming countries significantly impacting the producing countries and vice versa. This interdependence necessitates a seamless integration of policies to ensure the objective of sustainability, the economic growth, and social welfare are shared achieved. Therefore, communication and dialogue between producing and consuming countries is very important. And the establishment of joint task force between European Union, Government of Indonesia, Government of Malaysia serve an important aspect in having the mechanism of the dialogue. So we are having the dialogue in better understanding about the regulation in the consuming country, as well as also what we need to do in the producing country, especially in the establishment of the traceability tools. While we acknowledge the smallholders remain key drivers of global agricultural transformation, in Indonesia, 41% of the plantation land contributed by the smallholders, while in Malaysia contributed by 27% of national palm oil productions. More than 3 million smallholders engage in the palm oil industry. Therefore, we would like to highlight the importance, the establishment of the communication between the producing and the consuming country, as I mentioned, to ensure that the smallholders will not be left behind and will be still part of the supply chains of production, as well as on the industry processing, as well as on the export. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you to the representative of the Council of Palm Oil Producing Countries. I will now give the floor to the representative of CSO Indigenous Peoples.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank our sister from the Imbororo peoples and the panelists. When she refers to the term that we as indigenous peoples prefer versus agri-food systems, this discussion is about being inclusive. And the term agri-food systems, which has been debated for many years in different UN fora, does not include indigenous peoples in the fashion that we see a relationship to food and to land. Hence, I want to echo once again that the preferred terminology, if we really want to have inclusion and the full effective meaning of the word, we strongly suggest and hope that the member states and all those that have the power switch that term to be food systems and agriculture. That way we can assure true inclusion of all peoples in the world. Hahom, thank you.
Thank you to the representative of CSO Indigenous People. We don't have other comments from the floor, so I would like then to ask our panelists to address the comments and of the from the floor. So I would like Sopiko to address the comment of Armenia about the importance of synergies among the three Rio conventions.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Delegate from Armenia, for posing this question. In the key messages of the civil society organizations, we also underlined the importance of ensuring synergies between all three conventions, UN conventions. So on behalf of the civil society organizations, what I can share is that first, ensure coordination among all ministries and government bodies that are responsible for implementation of commitments under the conventions at the national level. So sometimes there are different ministries who are responsible for adopting national indicators and developing some strategies and action plans. So coordination and effective communication among those government bodies are crucial. And second, in the process of developing policy documents and action plans or setting new national indicators, ensure that objectives of those action plans and strategies are aligned with each other and are not undermining the objectives of any other action plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Sopiko. Priyanka, would you please address the question from USA?
Yes. Thank you so much for representatives of United States for deeply listening the stories of our healing journey. Yes, all these learning circles are about reviving the connections with Mother Nature. And here we have the formula, where we are surveying the challenges the communities are facing. Then we have some tools like a dream cafe, where we have set up questions for the communities who are engaging there. So the questions like, what is your vision for your village? What's your vision for yourself for next 10 years, 20 years, and then we have different strategies to co-design all their problems into a solution from themselves. So this is like an analysis formula, and we have one more strategy which is called world web, or we can call it the food web, where we can show them the interconnectedness between all the elements of nature, all the creatures and plants, strategies, and the human beings. So they understand after these strategies, okay, we all are connected, and every single and small strategy can help them give a magnificent result in many ways. So these are the learning circles, providing them some resilience in the form of food knowledge, what their ancestors used to eat before 50 years and what they are eating today. This is like a look your plate and diversify it. If you are going to diversify your plate, you must need to diversify your plot or diversify your land, and you can start it from your doorsteps. So these are easy strategies for all these learning circles and seed ceremonies we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I would like to ask Tanzania, the representative of Tanzania, to address the request from well, I've forgotten, from European Union.
Thank you very much. I would like to respond the question regarding the land rights. One of the things that is very important for us in implementation is that we work with other partners. So on the ground, we have technical partners and direct implementation partners. In the areas that we do not have expertise, we always bring on board other partners, other CSOs, government that support. So specifically in handling the land right issues, we have always brought on board other partners that are supporting communities on land right issues, especially for women, so that they are able to transform together with the rest of the group. And specifically in addressing how we are able to enhance the livelihoods of the farmers we support, I'll begin by answering yes, we work with farmers and we also support schools. With farmers, we are in Arusha region, specifically in Arusha District Council, where we are currently supporting 800 farmers with the focus and ensuring we look at youth and women inclusion. So there's something we we called quick wins. As much as we continue to support adoption of sustainable farming practices following the principle of diversification, we also encourage them to keep, for example, small livestock. It could be chicken, sheep. Using these ones, they are able to do quick production, and they are able to increase their incomes, which of course supports their livelihoods. But we also have beekeeping activities, which also are done in commercial perspectives, where farmers and members that are involved in that are supported to use the bee products and make them more economic and increase into their incomes. But we have started an initiative called urban farming. Urban farming targets youth and women. This is kind of a learning excellence center where these practices are done and youth are brought to learn, and then they duplicate this. For example, one feature that is here, it's called commercial nursery. Commercial nursery, it's where they are able to plant and sell trees, different trees, but also we encourage them to do vegetable gardening. So we also support service providers. One of the gaps we have in agroecology is availability of inputs, the biofertilizers, the biopesticides. So we've supported a couple of youth to be able to, they went to be trained in an agroecology center, and now they come back and do supply and selling of the bioproducts. So as much as we are looking at their livelihoods, we have quick wins, which supports them to continue managing their life in everyday ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Ermelinda. I would like to address a comment by the indigenous, CSO indigenous people. They stated that the agri-food system do not include indigenous people, so they strongly suggest to use food system agriculture instead of agri-food system. I would like to ask Glenda Manga to comment on that, please.
Bueno, en relación.
Well, with regard to the terminology proposed by indigenous peoples, I think that it's absolutely vital that we consider it in our discussions so that we can expand our terminology. We think that words matter. They have a specific meaning, and everyone has a different way of interpreting them according to their culture. So it's very important in such important platforms for discussion that we have an opportunity to propose terminology and concepts, because concepts limit, they define, and sometimes it's difficult to address all perspectives from one single term. So I think it must be taken into consideration. It's a very useful proposal that needs to be debated. I also think that it's essential that we incorporate more terminology. It's absolutely vital for us to include indigenous peoples. We do try to do this here, but we need to hear more voices. And I think this is another of the absolutely fundamental aspects. We've been working on this in the Kelsey Foundation. It's so important that those people who are living on the land can make their voices heard in these decision-making platforms. It shouldn't be expert, academic, or leader-level platforms. We have to hear from those on the land who are bearing the brunt of climate change. This was something that was mentioned yesterday or the day before yesterday. I can't remember exactly when it was. And that's the concept of the hummingbird. They're the most affected. They've got the resources from their ancestors of resilience to climate change, but at the same time, they're the ones who receive the least support. So I think that we must reconfigure decision-making fora and ensure that there is appropriate representation. So this term is something which must be up for debate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Glenda. I think also Priyanka Patil would like to make a comment on the indigenous statement.
Yes, thank you. for this thing. It's like not agriculture, food system, but food system and agriculture. Yes, food is really very subtle thing, and forests are the home for all of us, not all of us. And this is actually a real system and real culture we all belongs to. And this symbolizes true interconnectedness, true resilience, and true interbeing. We are divided due to some sort of systems of conventional farming practices which separates us everything. It's like a soil science is different, genetics is different, and all things are different. But culture, when it means to culture, culture is the integration. Culture is the what we are, but it should, when we talk about food, food is the very communal, very spiritual, and very internal thing. And yes, we can make it like a forest, or we can make it like a home by thinking its interconnectedness and resilience by like food system with other aligned systems like agriculture and all. But food is the main thing which comes from forest and from Mother Earth, and which is the one for all, and which is who we are really. We all are the nature, and we all are the earth.
Thank you, Priyanka. I would like to ask Arnand to comment. Perhaps you want to address the Armenia comment?
Yes, thank you, Miru. With respect to the Rio's conventions, the three focus areas of biodiversity, combating desertification, and the objectives of UNFCCC, land can be a common ground, can be a common linking factor to bridge these three objectives. Why I say so is because when we practice multi-cropping, tree-integrated, regenerative practices, we can build microclimate within farmlands and at a macroclimate at farming communities where biodiversity increases. Beneficial flora and fauna increases, which will support crop management in a much more agroecological way and in a profitable way. So this addresses the biodiversity part. With respect to combating desertification, these practices increases soil health in a very short span of time. It builds soil carbon, and it reduces the dependency on irrigation for these crop managements, and thus building resilience within land to combat desertification builds into these practices. Thirdly, whenever we talk about carbon sinks, mostly people talk about the forest soils or the forest floors. But agriculture soil has a huge potential to act as the biggest carbon sink on the planet, where today, majority of the experts say that more than 1/3 of the emitted CO2 can be absorbed and sequestered and kept in soil permanently with the appropriate regenerative practices. So this is a common bridge between these three objectives, and UNCCD's objective can actually take these three agendas in a very big way when we go to Belém in Brazil. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to ask now Aishato Ali to give a comment on the food system.
Thank you so much. As mentioned, food system and agriculture are deeply significant to indigenous people because they are rooted in our culture, spirituality, and environment, mostly environmental values that go beyond just economic aspects. When we talk about food system and agriculture, we try to look at the holistic scope. Food system encompasses everything from production, processing, distribution, consumption, and waste management, thereby addressing sustainability, while agriculture focuses only on the primary production of food, fiber, and raw materials. I think that's why we thought that it is important to come up with a terminology that will encompass all of that and being inclusive, taking into consideration our culture and values. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ai. I would like now to start the second round of comments, questions from the parties. Please. Well, we don't have other questions, other comments. So I would like to thank all the representatives of the parties. I would like to express my gratitude to them all. Sorry. Who wants to take the floor has to press the button, please. Okay, please, the representative of Senegal, the floor is yours.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Allow me first to thank all the panelists who have spoken at this panel. A panel which has indeed helped to share experience and our knowledge. I was wondering in that regard, which agricultural systems are best tailored to ensuring food security, in particular in those communities affected by drought and desertification? This is another way of framing this question. What we are currently discussing is happening against the backdrop of recurrent drought and land degradation. The scale of the negative impacts of these factors is not fully addressed. When it came to what was said by the representative of agro rangers from India, he said that agriculture is crushed between the sky and the land. This reminds me of the experience I had with my grandfather, who taught me how to engage in farming. And he said, if you want to become a man, you have to move away from land, because agriculture is really difficult, farming is very difficult. And this is what I've been engaged in. But everything we're discussing here also depends on the land. At some point or another, as farmers, we will have to revise our farming techniques, rethink our concepts. That is, the concepts we are currently discussing, be it under the Climate Convention or under the Desertification Convention and Biodiversity Conventions. Because I think sometimes when we think about these concepts, we lose sight of the communities and the problems they face. We must also integrate their approaches into this. When it comes to smallholders in the Sahel, 95% of their crops depend on rainfall, but how can they ensure their food security in the context of water scarcity and desertification? I worked for an organization, ENDA, where we were able to support farmers build up their production systems based on irrigation and the use of wind shields. And these wind shields were critical to this, to provide a mechanical protection from the wind and to mitigate evapotranspiration and to help boost soil fertility. This system is based on 4 factors: on the environmental factor, on having wood for fire and also carbon sequestration, but also ensuring that we have a productive environment. How can a smallholder in the Sahel who produces 1 ton per hectare, how can they ensure their food security over the next 100 years? Within the next 100 years, someone who's producing 1 hectare per year, they will take 100 years to produce 100 tons. But there is a way of having 20 hectares and producing 100 tons per hectare. This is a system that ENDA is being tried to implement. But we need to understand that solutions to address desertification are in large supply, but the limiting factors include scaling up these good practices. And we need to understand that we need to ensure that we can engage in profitable sustainability. That is about seeing how the way in which we manage the environment might be profitable for communities, and this through the promotion of value chains and the development of social associations, but also helping the production of solar energy in communities which do not have access to energy, but also ensuring drip irrigation systems are available, and also ensuring that we can leverage potential in areas affected by desertification. In that regard, we do need to promote such initiatives, as I've mentioned, to reduce emigration of young people, but also to help these agricultural communities feed themselves over the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you to the representative of Senegal, and now give the floor to the representative of Australia.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say how fantastic it was to hear the views of the CSOs here today, who are engaged in the really important work of land and soil restoration activities, and also from our youth and our women. And as we heard in the Gender Caucus, it is so important to have women engaged in sort of land restoration activities. I think it also illustrates how important it is to hear the views of CSOs in these global issues we're grappling with on addressing land degradation globally, which is increasing at an alarming rate. And it's also so important to hear harness the expertise of our local community groups who know their land, know their local communities, and are able to sort of address things at a grassroots level. And for those reasons, from Australia's perspective, we support the active participation of CSOs in these sessions of the UNCCD, and note previous COP decisions have encouraged and facilitated their active participation. And as also mentioned by our colleagues from the EU, we do also support the active participation of CSOs in the contact group sessions as observers. Thank you.
Thank you to the representative of Australia. Now I give the floor to the representative of South Africa.
Thank you so much, moderator. On behalf of the civil society in South Africa, we are doing work to support the presidential program, which is 10 million trees. 2020, our president launched the campaign to plant 10 million trees as a way to support land restoration. And as the Universal Greening Organization, we are playing a central role in ensuring that we achieve that commitment by our president. But our biggest challenge obviously comes with issues of financial resources, where when we mobilize young people on the ground and civil society to participate and assist in terms of achieving this goal, we always have limitations with the resources, and that's why we feel it's important that the parties and the stakeholders that are here assist civil society, mainly with issues of capacity building, because we have got a lot of youth organizations in South Africa who are participating, who are involved in the civil society work. Unfortunately, they struggle with regards to resources like funding, training, and obviously access to the stakeholders who are at the highest level. So we are here to commit as the civil society in South Africa to continue to support the work of UNCCD as with regards to land restoration. Thank you.
Thank you to the representative of South Africa. Now would like to give the floor to the representative of Morocco.
Bonjour tout le monde.
Good morning, everyone. I thank the moderator, and I thank all those in attendance. I would like to share one experiment we've carried out in Morocco. We have one association working in the Atlas Mountains, and we are working with the local community through this organization as part of a consultative effort between scientists And the members of this community, which is primarily engaged in pastoralism and the raising of sheep, we've seen a great deal of overgrazing leading to soil degradation and a great deal of erosion, as well as a reduction in the vegetation cover, as well as a significant reduction in flora and biodiversity. So as to take action here, we sought to deal with nature-based solutions as well as culture-based solutions. We used indigenous knowledge, ancestral knowledge. It's called NEGDEL. This is agricultural rotation, which is done depending on the seasons and depending on the time of the year to reduce the pastoral burden on land. And this has been done with national and international stakeholders, such as the National Agency for Water and Forests, as well as various international donors, such as CRPF, the UNDP, and also one Canadian agency. We've sought to facilitate this pastoral restoration through the establishment of systems to ensure rotation can take place. We've also sought to re-establish the flora and biodiversity, this being done with young people who have been engaged in collecting seeds for low-lying shrubbery and grasslands, and this has been done with the National Agency of Water and Forests, and we sought to sow these seeds in degraded areas. So here we have the nature-based solution and the ancestral cultivation approach. We have this dual approach. Over 3 or 4 years, we've been engaged in this, and we've seen a impressive rehabilitation of flora and of biodiversity, in particular of plants which are eaten by cattle. We've also seen in this regard a return of flora, a rehabilitation of fauna, butterflies, various kinds of birds, and these are examples of fauna which previously occupied this region. This is one success story that I wanted to share with you, and I would like to thank all donors who've supported us in this effort. I hope that we will see this be scaled up across our country, but also in other countries around the world, as our friend has said. Without land, there is no agriculture. Without land, there is no pastoralism. By supporting activities like those I mentioned, we can achieve success and attain various sustainable development goals. I thank you very much, moderator.
Thank you to the representative of Morocco. Now I give the floor to the representative of Chile.
Thank you very much, Chair. I would like to thank the various panelists for their very interesting contributions. As state representatives, they will help us improve our decisions. I would like to underscore that Chile is very committed to working with academia, youth, women, and civil society. This is in line with the only agreement existing in Latin America and Caribbean, which is the Escazú Agreement, which ensures access to information and participation as human rights. Negotiations are transparent, they are webcast, so we support the participation of all observers and non-state representatives. I would like also to highlight that over the past 4 days at this conference, we've heard from what we can categorize as environmental human rights defenders. That means to say there are people who defend the environment, and that is at the heart of the convention. I would like to emphasize the shameful situation in Latin America and the Caribbean, whereby around 3/4 of defenders face threats. In the Escazú Agreement, we have a plan of action to familiarize ourselves with this situation, recognize defenders, and take measures in our states against those who threaten the people who are defending our land and Mother Nature. Thank you very much for your contributions.
Thank you to the representative of Chile. Now I will give the floor to the representative of China.
Thank you, moderator. I also thank the Secretariat for convening this open dialogue session, and I thank all partners from the CSO for your sharing. Chinese government has proposed protecting food and forest. The forest food has become the third biggest category of food in China. This is a big change in our value of food. From our big value of food, the forest is a big source of food. In China, we have also noticed that on community level, there are many best practices on the community level. In Gansu, we have an oasis between two deserts. In this local area, some associations use different practices to restore the land, and after that to develop agriculture. Also, they use this practice to increase the income of the local farmers. Also, this has created jobs for local young people. We have noticed that the land hero and delegate from Senegal has mentioned the difficulty of young people of looking for a job. In China, we have lots of young people using the internet to broadcast the new agriculture fields to the public. And this new agriculture has become a new fashion in China.
Thank you to the representative of China. I would like to remind the parties who would like to take the floor to push the button, please. Now we'll give the floor to the State of Palestine.
شكرا سيدي الرئيس. تلعب منظمات المجتمع المدني دورا.
Civil society organizations have a critical role to play in the provision of services and in the design of strategies, in particular in government agencies. They must be full-fledged partners in our progress towards development. As regards Palestine, civil society has a crucial role to play in service provision, even before the Palestinian Authority plays its role. Civil society has gained a great deal of long-standing experience in this regard, and it continues to apply this experience today. There are various organizations representing women, local organizations, and others which are relevant in this regard. Partnerships between governments, which design strategies, and civil society, on the other hand, are critical. Our civil society is marked by strength, much strength, and they are full-fledged participants in our design process for these strategies. Thank you.
Thank you to the representative of State of Palestine. I would like now to give the floor to the representative of Cabo Verde.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. And also, I would like to thank all the panelists for their very inspiring stories about the desertification, land degradation, and how to conserve the land. For some reason, drought is the poor relative of the 3 Rio Conventions. I used to work at my mission at United Nations, and desertification is the least discussed issue at UN. Climate change, we all know it's the most discussed, and also biodiversity has its momentum, but desertification is the least discussed issues. And yet, drought are a global concern, affecting numerous countries across various continents. Between 2022 and 2023, 24 countries across 5 continents declared drought emergency. Also, every COP, we reiterate the importance of the synergy between the 3 conventions, and yet we fail to deliver on actions to put together those 3 conventions and then really have meaningful progress on that direction. Which is why I'm very, very pleased, especially with the young, very young women and men, inspiring stories that they told us. Which is, we will lead to my question. I know that you are doing like amazing work, but my question is there a room, or are you also working in terms of cooperation with other countries to bring also your experience to other countries? Because I think, like, especially a country like India, which is huge, for my country that also suffer from severe drought every year practically, I think that small actions could mean like the world to us. So my question is there a room? Are you working with other countries? There is a possibility to that? Because also we have a new ambassador from India in Cabo Verde. I think that this is something that we can work. There's a lot of area for potential cooperation, but agriculture is not a fancy area of cooperation, but I think that amazing thing could be done here. Thank you so much.
Thank you to Representative Cabo Verde. I would like now to give the floor to the UN Women representative.
Thank you, Chair, for giving UN Women the floor, and thank you for this open, interactive dialogue where we are elevating the voices and perspectives of CSOs and their experiences on land degradation and promoting women's land rights. We see women's land rights, food systems transformation, and the care economy as the through lines, the connectors across the Rio Conventions. And we are at a crucial juncture where we invite all stakeholders to promote gender-responsive synergies across the Rio Conventions. And we would also like to invite you to review our latest working paper on the matter and join us on Saturday in the Mongolia Pavilion at 1:15. But regarding food systems transformation, we really appreciate this conversation. And we would like to draw attention to the Committee on World Food Security voluntary guidelines on gender equality and women's and girls' empowerment in the context of food security and nutrition, which provide concrete recommendations to address the disproportionate impacts women and girls face from soil and land degradation. UN Women stands ready to partner and support parties and CSOs and all of our partners to integrate gender equality and women's land rights throughout the COP16 and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you to the UN Women representative. I would like now to give the floor to the representative of Belarus.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to convey my gratitude for this opportunity to take the floor and share Belarus's experience. In our country, to prevent soil degradation, we've adopted very strategic documents. We've carried out successful national plans of action to fight soil degradation spanning a 5-year period. At present, we are carrying out the second national plan of action, and we started to form the third national plan of action on soil and land degradation, going up until 2030. The plan includes various activities which are aimed at involving civil society, young people, and local land users. We are also carrying out reforestation activities, including at the local initiative, after carrying out the environmental rehabilitation of peatlands. We try to carry out various products to help improve the social economic welfare of the local communities and improve the state of the environment. Belarus hopes to engage in further international cooperation, and we hope to garner more support for national initiatives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, the representative of Belarus. I would like now to give the floor to the representative of Iraq.
Peace be upon you all. First of all, we'd like to thank the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, its government and people for the generous hospitality. We'd like to state that there is civil society across the provinces of Iraq and around the world, and we'd like the Secretariat to consider the fair geographic distribution when inviting CSOs. Thank you.
Thank you to representative of Iraq. Now I would like to give the floor to the representative of civil society.
Thank you. I just wanted to state, when we're looking at these different individual CSOs and the impact that they've had locally, and to the United States comment about social impact, as we look at scalability, how do we measure this social impact and how do we scale this social impact so it's measured and the appropriate funding is there and available? So I'd like to hear from some of the CSOs and the panelists about measurements of social impact and then the scalability of those measurements to be able to get the appropriate funding.
Thank you to the representative of civil society. We don't have other requests from the floor. So once again, I would like to thank all the parties who have taken the floor, and now I would like to ask the panelists to address many questions. We do have a lot of different questions. I think I would first like to call on Sidesh to address the comments by the representative of Senegal.
Thank you so much for the representative of Senegal and also the presentation from the China, because they also mentioned the same thing on the land degradation and the farmers and the youth, very similar topic. First of all, like the system created by these agrochemical companies, that we have to understand that they have been telling us we have to feed the 10 billion people by 2030. And if we use that, we will get more profit. If we will use more agrochemicals, we will get more profit. And we have ended up by destroying our soil quality. But the actual problem is there is no food justice. There is no equal distribution of the food. There is a very high amount of food losses because of not having appropriate technology for the storage or for the warehousing. And if they are saying that the farmers are getting profit by using their chemicals, then why the farmers are struggling all over the world? They're not getting the fair prices for the food, and why their struggle has been continued all the countries across the world. The major challenge is not the food security, but I see it as a nutritional security, because there is no nutrition left in the soil which has been exploited by these excessive chemical usage. And if we have to talk about in the long term, we have to be sustainable. The soil is the only media which can sustain us. So to break that marketing advertisement from those companies, we have to break that knowledge and understand what can be worked and implemented at the ground. So I did a very extensive research, and I was finding out there was a drought in like 50 decades or 20 decades, 2 decades before also. And we did a very intensive research with the farmers who are more than 80, 90 years old. And I asked them the questions like, was there a drought when you were doing the farming? And there were a drought. There were farmers who were really struggling to it. But then I asked, like, what were you doing to survive in this drought condition or these climatic challenges. So we found out by surveying more than 500 farmers in our area, and we came up to the study like there has been a certain practices which were followed, and that knowledge was getting transferred generation to generation. Few decades back, these chemical companies came into the place and destroyed that knowledge, and which doesn't pass to our generation. And then I tried to record that knowledge, document that knowledge, and creating the frameworks, particularly in the drought and desertification area. They have very simple cropping patterns, which was feeding the soil, which was feeding them for the long-term duration if there is even a very worst condition of a drought. And it was also impacting the environment which had a maximum carbon sequestration and the water storage in that farmland. It's a very simple process that if you use the locally available and your locally native seeds, which has a more resilience in terms of the climatic condition, you can use that. The composting and integrating the animal waste into the farming system is one of the very easy way to improve the soil quality and use it as a fertilizer replacement as an organic. Having the right cropping pattern with the combinations which actually helps the soil, but also diversify your plate and diversify your income of the farmers. Harvesting rainwater, that can be done by designing the land in such a way that whatever the rainwater that we are getting, even in a drought situation, we can harvest it and storing it into the groundwater. And the more carbon content in the soil will be having the more capacity to hold the water in that soil. Lot of people and a lot of farmers in our area were using the dead plant as a mulching, which was a very water-saving technique that they used traditionally. For the youth, the representative of China very rightly mentioned that it has been lucrative profession and very booming profession in India to become agriculture, but not in all the countries. In India, still that have the issues. So few of the things that I would like to address to get the youth representation more by integrating the technology with the traditional knowledge and building a better value chain, involving in a building farmer-centric technology, and this youth can play a very important role into it by having this ecosystem which can sustain the farmer, which can sustain the farmlands and the youth, and create a better food security system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Siddesh. I would also like Arnaud to comment on Senegal, please.
Yes, thank you. Indigenous communities have the most intimate relationship with their landscapes, and their role in protecting the natural resources and the management of these natural resources play a very vital role. But often these communities don't get the support of financial help, technical help, hand-holding help, which is very critical for them to adapt to the ever-changing realities of climate change in the form of unforeseen monsoons, unforeseen climate risk like flood and drought. So to transition successfully, we need to bring in technology and lace it with the indigenous traditional knowledge systems that have been there within their agriculture systems for hundreds and thousands of years. I agree to the friend from Senegal that it is very important that we integrate micro-irrigation practices and solar power in areas where electricity or fuel doesn't have consistent support in managing these farm systems. So definitely we need these technologies to have more efficiency and have financial instruments for reaching it to the farmers, especially to the small and marginalized communities who become or are the 80% of farmer communities across the globe. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to ask Ai to comment the Australia point that made by increasing participation of CSOs observer and the inclusion of indigenous people.
Okay, thank you. For me, I think it is very important. Our voices are very important We are representing people from the communities, people who are not able to be here, whose voices are never heard. I think including the civil society and indigenous peoples in all decision-making arena, it will make their voices to be heard, and it will be inclusive. In taking any decision that they are part of it, implementing it will be easier for us than implementing decisions that are taken without us. And I think us being here will contribute enormously in the discussions, and we have lots of traditional knowledge or indigenous knowledge that we can share to combat desertification, because we are in the communities, we live with it, and we adapt to certain situations. So it will be very important if we are included and our ideas are taken into consideration. It will go a long way to improve on the documentation that is being developed and is being implemented in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Aid. We have many questions starting from South Africa about the challenge of resource mobilization, capacity building, youth education, and so on and so forth. So I would like to ask Sopiko to address this question, please.
Thank you very much for the floor. So sharing experience regarding the mobilization of resources for the youth education. So it can be leveraged, of course, from the public finances as well as for the partnership of public-private partnerships. But in some cases, in the majority of role are taken by the civil society organizations, especially at the local levels, who are the pioneers in investing their resources in youth education, enhancing their civil activism, and also motivate them to take lead and implement local-led initiatives. In that regard, also empowering and supporting locally based community organizations are crucial because in most cases they have direct communications to the youth, who then can play the role of agents to transform local communities and make it more sustainable. So on the national level, it's crucial that governments invest and increase the budgets for the education, also leverage the partnership with the private sector, and on the local level, international organizations should continue support civil society organizations, especially at the local level. Thank you.
Thank you. Sopiko, also Chile, asked about the importance, underlying importance of academia, youth information and education. And I would like also to ask Arnaud to address this issue as well as the South African request. Please.
Thank you. One important part is that if the advancement of technologies, especially cost-effective technologies in the space of GIS and various other monitoring systems, the global funding organizations have insisted that today they need stronger and high-integrity MRV systems with implementing agencies which are custodians of transformation with rural communities and agriculture communities. Now, these technologies are quite expensive, even for the CSOs to access it. Small CSOs are finding it very difficult to cope up with the advancement of these technologies. So it is important that CSOs are able to raise investments in building these capacity and building capabilities within the organization to strengthen their own MRV systems. Without a strong MRV system, for us to anticipate sustainable long-term funding for the initiatives is going to be a very big question mark. So we have to ride with the tide in terms of technology and embrace it as much as possible and invest in think tanks and participate in expos and exhibitions where these technologies are being given and transmitted to CSOs and communities. The role of youth is very important. Today, globally, less than 2 or 3% of farmers' children want to get into agriculture. With this, the real question is that who's going to produce our food in a matter of 20, 30 years? In a country like India with 93 million people, the average age of a farmer has become 52 years, which means that after 10 years, we're going to have severe food security issues, not because the land is not available or water is not available, just that we will not have the farmers to produce these foods. And in most global south countries, agriculture is not a form of formal education. It is a systematic transfer of knowledge from one generation to another generation. If we lose the indigenous and traditional knowledge, there is no way to revive it if we skip one generation that gets into agriculture. So this is the biggest threat, apart from the threat that land is facing in terms of desertification. The people who are going to migrate away from agriculture is going to be the biggest threat for agriculture and food security. Thank you.
Thank you, Arnaud. The UN Women asked about a recommendation for the transformation, and then China came with a comment about promoting internet to promote agricultural business. I would like to ask Glenda to address those two issues. Glenda?
With regard to integrating technology such as internet, we know now that artificial intelligence has emerged and is influencing many areas. There's a lot of fear because people don't know what's going to happen in certain areas of life, but our experience in the CalSafe Foundation is that we have to use new technology appropriately, particularly if we want to work with young people, because they're digital natives. So we have to make sure that new technology can promote tools which will improve learning. But at the same time, we mustn't leave behind direct contact with nature, with soil, and the skills that we develop through our senses. We've been working with young children, and we've seen that even though technology and screens have been around for a long time in their lives, when they touch a seed or the soil for the first time at the age of 5, 6, 7, or 8, because they're children living in the city, we see that it really stimulates them. In the past, we were used to being in touch with seeds and soil, but it's far removed from life in cities. So I think that we must combine the use of new technology with attaching the greatest importance to contact with nature. We can't work with something we're not familiar with, and we can't allow children to be cut off from the knowledge of their forefathers and forebearers. We also must make sure that they don't lose the capacity to concentrate because of the massive use of this new technology. So it's very important for us to integrate new technology, but at the same time, education must be based still on contact with nature. I think that what we have to do is to make sure that education can still take place outdoors, that we have school gardens, and that we have community composting schemes that can be set up within homes. Young people must be catalyzers and leverage this knowledge, passing it on to adults as well. It's so important that we have contact with the main components of nature around us. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenda. I would like now to ask Priyanka to address the comment by Palestine State about CSO being critical partners in service provision, and then they must be fully included in the discussion platform. Please give your comment on that.
Sorry, I didn't understand. Can you repeat?
Yes, the Palestine state comment about the CSO being critical partner in social provision, and then that must be fully acknowledged in the discussion platform.
Yes. Okay, as the CSOs are playing a major role, and we are united more than 4,000 CSOs here, and they have the world is united here due to the connectivity, and even we are talking about the internet connections. So yes, it's very easy for all of us to access to the knowledge, to solve the problems we are facing, like the crisis and all this. And as the CSOs are the one of the important players, and they can play a major role to connect between the government policies and deploying these policies to the people who are actually suffering on the grounds. So yes, it's always like I feel it's always like we have to close all those gaps, and we are the one of the bridge between closing all those gaps by supporting who are on the grounds, and who are their partners with having the funds. They are the private partners and the governments. They are having very magical policies. Even in India, we are looking, we have different policies, but when we go to implementation, there are different gaps because there are the matters of truth and transparencies, and where the different CSOs can play a very real and major role to bridge that gap and bring the values in those systems, so that no one should live behind in this process, and everyone is get access to livelihood. Everyone should get access to solve the crisis in the different ways by using the different strategies the people are using globally. For example, we were watching one movie yesterday that was screening The Hope in Changing Climate. And we were facing similar problems in India, but we didn't know, okay, they are facing major challenges than us, but they still have the hope and they have strategies to deal with that. So these things can inspire the people having similar climatic conditions, the people suffering from similar problems, and CSOs can play the major role by bridging all these technology gaps, the knowledge gap, and even supporting in the finances in many ways. Because there is a fund, there is the money, but we need to like where it should go and who are the needed, and how should be the policy to support them in many ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanka. Again, we have a question about the Rio Convention and about if there is the room for capacity to build capacity among different countries. I would like to ask Glenda to address this issue. From Cabo Verde.
Con relación al... Cabo Verde, ok. Con relación a...
I'm just finding Cabo Verde's question. Now, with regard to the integration of the 3 COPs, we think it's very important to pursue the subjects which offer the highest level of connection between the 3 COPs. There are some subjects which are more academic, which are more specific, but there are others which are closely interrelated. So I think it would be very smart and strategic to develop new formats. We shouldn't just have panels and interactive sessions like this one, but we could perhaps have role-playing situations, or we could go beyond the normal academic confines and call on people to solve problems. Perhaps that would be something which we could link up to other conferences. We could look at some of the subjects that they address and how they solve problems. And this is what we do in the Kelsey Foundation. We call on students and adults to start playing again. We call on adults to play the role of somebody else so they can share their experience. They can see what it's like. So I think this is a real challenge because we have to move out of our comfort zone and pursue new strategies through the way in which we take up somebody else's role and interact with them. This is one of the tools that we use, and we think that it's very effective. Now, with regard to your question about countries sharing their experiences with others, and that I think brings us back to this idea of the connection between the three COPs. Well, we have done this through our Beyond Borders program, which brings together civil society organizations from Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay. So we have an annual meeting which we call the Agroecological Platform. What we do there is we develop an evaluation system for our soil management and agroecology. We develop what we call development guarantee systems. And so during the debate and exchange, we develop this kind of plan which must be adapted to each community. We know that agroecology is not universal. There's not one size fits all. What we need to do is we need to adapt to each communities, and we look at how tools can be used to assess soil quality, which products are more suitable than others. We hold these meetings either in person if we've got resources or online if not. It's been very rewarding for us. In Argentina, we've had the opportunity to develop this evaluation system which has an agroecological quality seal, and the same is being done in Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay with regard to their lands. Now, with regard to sharing experiences, I think it's absolutely vital. And this is what we've done when we've met in person, to take farmers from Argentina to Paraguay so they can share their experiences with their local counterparts. They see how they solve their daily problems in their land, and this provides feedback into the systems in other areas where they're facing climate-induced challenges. So in this regard, and to wrap up, I think it's important to bring together countries and conferences on different subjects, and we can do that by sharing experiences and by taking up these educational and game-playing strategies. They can be really effective when we want to address new challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We have just a small comment, brief comment from Anand, please, on the same subject.
Thank you. With respect to Cabo Verde's question, yes, we are having collaboration initiatives with different countries. We are working with various countries in Central Asia, and we are working with a couple of countries in Africa and South America. So we would like to understand the requirements and tailor-make solutions, because end of the day, agriculture is a region-specific, agroclimatic-specific activity. No one organization will be able to completely give a standard set of solutions for agriculture problems. It is important that we are able to collaborate and see whether the gaps are in technical areas or in extension activities or in strategies or technology. Accordingly, we can collaborate and see what kind of expertise can be mobilized to develop a holistic solution for your country-specific issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand. Finally, would like to ask Melinda to address the issue about using natural and cultural-based solution to address all the problems that we have, and how they can incorporate local knowledge. And finally, how to measure and scale the social impact of these technologies.
Thank you very much. To begin with the first question, with the real on-ground situation, farmers, all the people from the ground, they know a lot. What they don't have is a platform to share what they have. One of the things and the methods that we use to make sure use of the local knowledge and existing knowledge is to combine scientific knowledge and the local knowledge. That way is easier to transform a community. So I would like to say it is very, very important as we enter in community as a CSO or funding partners and we are trying to support transformation in that community, it is very important to first understand what are the existing local knowledges and how best can we use those ones and link them with the scientific knowledges, and the two of them can be able to support transformation in that communities. Back to the other question, how do we measure the social impact? Of course, I would like to link it, how we can also use this to attract more funding. Best ways to measure the social impacts in the communities is, of course, to look at the normal project management cycle. When you enter, you will see the situation before, and you keep monitoring that. And before going to another project, it is very important to know what have you done socially. What are their social livelihoods? Have they improved their income? Have they improved their health? Have they restored their land? So in that way, it helps us to know what are the gaps so that in the next project, we do not repeat what was done. But this also calls for collaboration among many actors. Today, we are working in Arusha district. Perhaps after 4 years, we are going to be working in another place, and then another CSO will come in the same area. It is very important we collaborate. The other CSO gets to know the story, how it worked, what were the challenges, where were the gaps, what were the success factors, so that they know how to go about it and avoid using a lot more of resources to repeat what was done. But nature-based solutions have proven to be working. We have all heard the stories. We are here showing how much land is being restored. And I think it's high time people begin talking about them. The curriculums, it's time they begin incorporating knowledge about this. Young children in the schools, for example, we promote school gardens. It's time we do those in those schools so that we raise generation that understands nature can still help itself to maintain the environment, to keep our health, and to ensure the future generation works very well. It is true in terms of resources, we still need more. We still need resource from all over the world to scale and sustain this good work that is already being done by CSOs across the world. So it's just a call for action for all of us to work together and collaborate to ensure we are scaling this work and impacting more generations from now on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to you all for your extremely valuable comments and insights. As we conclude this session of the open dialogue, I would like to share the key recommendation from the CSOs regarding to agri-food. We have a slide. Could you please project the slide? The CSOs call for the development and implementation of policies and governance at both national and subnational levels that actively support agroecological and agroforestry approaches, as well as practices from local communities, pastoralist communities, indigenous people, to ensure food security and the right to food. Limiting water-intensive business practice and ending all public support for land-degrading agriculture. Supporting locally led action, initiative, and knowledge exchange regarding sustainable agri-food system through accessible funding mechanisms. Supporting the implementation of a landmark COP14 Decision 26 on land tenure and to ensure land rights for inclusive agri-food systems. Promoting sustainable consumption patterns, fostering community-based initiatives to enhance agri-food system, ensuring the relevance of financial support for their strengthening and scaling up. Finally, building local institutions to support small-scale sustainable food system and value chain. I would like now to give the floor to the Secretariat for final conclusions. Marcos.
Thank you so much, organizers for having the opportunity to present the position of the civil society organizations. The open dialogue session is a treasure that this UN Convention to Combat Desertification has for engaging with the civil society and give the opportunity to interact directly with the parties on topics that are relevant for the civil society organizations and the non-state actors. As you know, there will be another open dialogue session that will take place on the second week, on the 9th of December. But before that, on 7th of December, we will have within the thematic topics the issue of, there will be People's Day, in which we will be addressing the situation of those that are in situation of vulnerability, youth, indigenous peoples, and women. So the event will be organized with several high-level events where ministers and also different stakeholders will be participating. I would like to thank the delegates for taking the time and being here, also interacting with the civil society and providing also the insights for this really interesting topic. And thank you so much.
Should we give the floor? Perhaps the Morocco representative would like to take the floor? No, it is a mistake? Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, moderator. I simply wanted to add to these final recommendations the promotion of the use of nature-based solutions to promote agriculture and agroecology. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Representative of Morocco. Now, on behalf of all CSOs, I would like to once again to thank the UNCCD Secretariat as well as the presidency of this COP16 and the parties for your consideration support. Thank you very much indeed. Distinguished President, now respectfully, I give the floor to you for the conclusions.
أود أن أشكر الميسر على حنكته في إدارة المناقشة.
I thank the moderator for expertly guiding the discussions during this open session dialogue. I also thank all participants, particularly representatives from civil society organizations, for their active engagement in the deliberations. Distinguished delegates, we have concluded our program of work for this meeting. The high-level dialogue on sustainable, resilient and inclusive agri-food systems will take place today afternoon at 1 p.m. in room MET 33. The Committee on Science and Technology will convene at 3 p.m. in the plenary hall. Further information on the programme for COP16 and related meetings is available on the conference website and on the UNCCD app. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.